I gathered from because I doing some research. Not only do I fell in love with your band because not only do you like I think absolutely perfectly capture like how pop punk sounds right now in 2020, but I got like a lot of serious like good time positive energy vibes even in the sad songs.
Yeah, I mean that's honestly like who we are. If you ever meet us, like we very rarely do we really like kind of not have a positive attitude, at a show or and even if we are going through something like when we were first playing and we weren't having like the best shows because there was some stuff we needed to fine tune to make us like tighter,
Mm-hmm.
even like we might have had like a disagreement or like a little bit of a conversation with each other like after the show. But during the show, we were just like positive. Like we just, because of life, oh, life is fun, right? We're playing in a rock band and getting to tour with friends. So, and being a little bit older too, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the petty arguments that you see a lot of like younger bands get into, like that doesn't really happen with us because I mean, I just turned 29.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan, our singer's 30. Cody's turning 25. It's like we kind of learned how to talk to each other at this point, like how to remain positive and how to be critical but not insulting, how to hear where someone's coming from. And that really just kind of creates this sense of positivity when we're like writing songs, and we're just hanging out with people. Like my wife and I have a house in right outside Philadelphia, and
Mm-hmm.
we house bands on tour. And uh, so they'll come in, and my band will usually come over as well, and like we stock the bands with with beer, and we party, and we just try to give someone like, hey, welcome to Philly, let's have some fun, you know. Um, and that's actually how the band started too. We just want to write really fun songs that had a relatable and humorous like comparison to something serious. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like our first song ever, Leftovers, if you've heard that.
Yes, I have.
Um,
Being from Maryland, like any Wawa reference is gonna like be hit me close to the heart. So I appreciated the lyrics on that song.
there you go. Well, and it's like the first line. I actually sent that lyric, the beginning line, to Ryan when I was driving home from work, and it popped in my head. And the opening line for those who haven't heard is, "You make me feel like the leftovers in your fridge that you forgot about." And it's the concept, a serious concept of like feeling like your partner, your friend is like abandoning you. It's the end of the relationship. You feel like you're just being forgotten about. They're ditching you. They're not coming over to hang out. So we took the serious concept and we compared it to something funny. Like, who
Yeah.
here hasn't had leftovers in the fridge that you forgot about? And it's all moldy and
Mm-hmm.
gross when you finally find it. And you're really disappointed that you didn't eat it and give it its love that should have.
Yeah.
That sounded weird, but you know what I mean.
I know exactly what you mean. I hate throwing out food. It's a,
Right. And then like Pong Partners, our drummer wrote that, and that's literally about, when you find that person you want to flirt with, how do you flirt with them at the party? You ask them to be your Pong partner, because that's the
mm-hmm.
easiest thing to do. Like, oh, you made that shot, high five, hugs, flirtatious touching, and shit like that. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, and yeah, and this record, the Life in Slow Motion, was actually the most serious songs like we've really written. And we were kind of going through a little bit of a like Bad Times Don't Last was so successful for us as far as like really getting our name out there,
Mm-hmm.
that we were so, at least me, because I get like the super anxious, over the top, like feelings when we're writing music, because I'm always saying to myself, will people like it? Like Bad Times Don't Last was so good, will people like Life in Slow Motion? Will they think it's too heavy or too serious? It's not Goalkeeper enough. um but we realized, like, we have these serious songs, but then we compare them with like funny music videos, and that kind of brings out our humor with it, and just our personalities live. Like Cody's the one who runs our Twitter, so all his like snappy little one-liners that he puts
Mm-hmm.
up there.
Yeah,
um
yeah, exactly. Like I picked up on all that. If anything, I think it shows outside of just the song, it shows like you're well-rounded human beings. Like there's there's the sad mask on the I'm a former theater kid, so I think of like the sad mask and the drama mask, and those
Mhm.
are all kind of all swirling within all of us at any given time. And it's just maybe one comes up to the forefront more than the other. And
Yeah.
I picked up on a lot of that because the songs all like have that kind of like moody atmosphericness to it. But then you pair it with like wit, and it's not like self pitying the way it's not self pitying the way like overly like sad mopey songs can be.
Hmm.
There's a kind of like wry acknowledgement of the situation, and kind of like I'm gonna laugh through the sadness.
That's actually, yeah, I'm gonna steal that when I write like our EPK because that explains it way better than I ever could. But it's exactly that. And one of the cool things is so I told you I was running a little bit late because I was finishing up a meeting with my supervisor. I'm actually a mental health therapist as my job. I want
Mm-hmm.
have my master's degree in it, work on my license and everything. So when we write these songs, Ryan and Cody are actually the main lyric writers and like the main writers.
Mm-hmm.
They'll come to me and say, "Hey, like a person's going through this. What are some behaviors that they might traditionally do, or what would you say to a client who is struggling with this? I feel stuck. You know, and I'm a very action oriented therapist, right? I'm very solution focused and action oriented. So, basically, I preach to my clients: you're not going to get results unless you do something. You
Yeah.
know, coming in and talking to me once a week for 60 minutes and then leaving without any homework, without anything to actually go do, you just talk to me for 60 minutes and have nothing to actually work on. So that kind of comes out in our songs too, because we're very much like, yes, like you said, the reality of the situation, this is what's happening. We can laugh through it because life is unpredictable and sometimes just unfair. Um, but you still have to figure out how to work through it and get through it. You can't just, that's what our song Chances is about. The
Mm-hmm.
progression of the relationship, going from please don't leave me, self-loathing, and at the end it's like, well, I got some new friends now, I got a new job, my life is not so bad, I work to get myself better. The song Nothing at All is literally about not giving up. um, so we feel like that helps us, like you said, we can write about these like more darker topics or sad topics, but they don't come across so like pity, woe is me, I'm so sad. They
Yeah.
still have the high energy and but still the relatability.
Exactly. I think that's why ska works so well for me because lots of my favorite ska bands, the lyrics are kind of sad, but it's paired with such upbeat melodies that it doesn't it compels me to dance. Um, Action oriented therapist. I have a lot of friends in the stand up comedy community. You're probably going to get some referrals off of this episode because I love that's your approach, and I'd love to talk about this a little bit also because I feel like there is the kind of there's that stereotype of the tell me what you think kind of therapist who is trying to like get you to like, and that was my experience with therapists. Is like I had lots of therapists that were like trying to get me to come to this solution. I was like, then why am I even here? I need some guidance. That's why I'm here.
Right. And there's like a difference, like in my approach, is like there's a difference between telling a client what to do because like if you came to me and said, I don't know what I should do. I don't know if I should take this job or this job. And I said, oh, well, take that job because it's better pay, better vacation. It's just better. Well, then you go and take the job and it ends up being that sure, the benefits are nicer, but the people suck.
Right, and then it's
You
your fault.
know, exactly. So, you know, so that's like if in that made up situation, I would tell the person, write out the pros and cons list. What are you feeling? What are you getting in your gut when you go and you're talking to these supervisors? Like, who do you feel more like excited to be around? you know let's look at the environment. What's the office building like, or what is the job environment like? you know
Yeah.
um and so it really gets the person to think about all that stuff. Well, this job's a lot better because it has windows and I can see the sun. This job isn't because it doesn't have windows. And like that can really be a make or break deal. I mean, it's a make or break deal for me.
Oh yeah,
If I don't have a window, I'm like feeling like I'm inside this like office box. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, you know, distraught at work every day.
I know exactly what you mean because I've had the job. I had a job in a basement with no windows. Like, and during the wintertime, like I wouldn't see the sun all day. Like it would be dark when I would leave for work, and it would be dark when I left. I was just like, it was brutal. Yeah, I know exactly. What's an example of something you told your bandmates that they came to when it came to writing lyrics? What's something that you gave them?
Oh, okay. Let's see. So Ryan did a really good job because I talk so much, as you can already hear. So they kind of just like soak in when when I speak.
Mm-hmm.
I think on the last record, it was the song "Chances" was a really good example. So Ryan was
Yeah,
kind of
I like
writing
that
that
song.
song over the course. I think it's my favorite off the record. I love playing that live too because that intro just hits so hard.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but so he was writing that song, kind of adding to it on and off for about 10 years, believe it or not. Um, and he was telling me, like, he was asking me, like, okay, this person is, what's kind of the stages of like loss, basically. First it's like, the denial, right? And the initial shock, like, there's no way this is happening. So in a relationship sense, it's like, oh, excuse me, I'm trying to hold in a cough there.
Oh, no problem.
Like, please don't leave me. Please don't. This can't be happening. I can't be losing you right now. I'll change. I'll do whatever you want just to not make this a reality. Um, and then after that, kind of comes like the depression and the anger, right? So the guy
Mm-hmm.
in the second verse, the guy is self-loathing. He's just smoking weed all day, gaining weight, uh, mad at the world. He's just mad that he's in this situation. And then afterwards, it's like the acceptance, right? And when you hit that acceptance part of when you're going through grief and loss, that's where you can make a lot of the changes that you need to do. Um, but you kind of have to go through this stuff. So,
Mm-hmm.
kind of talking about that with him gave him the idea of how the character in the song went through those different phases. And at the end of the song, it went from literally saying, just give me one more chance to be with you to at least I had the chance to be with you. Um, so kind of like learning from the situation, learning about self, and learn about self like from that, in the song The Breakup, basically. And what are some things a person would do when they move on? And with a breakup, a lot of times you change a lot of things. Or your friendships might change because if you had like the couples friends,
Yep.
um, if you work together, you might quit your job, and find a new job.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
You have different
so I think
associations with places and songs, definitely.
right. So that was kind of like the big example of, hey, what would this person be going through in like in this situation?
That
So, um,
that's fascinating. It's such like a multi-layered kind of like more impactful way of developing a song. And I feel like that added kind of weight really carries through. And I'll also say one as far as like goalkeeper lyrics. Happy's going to be on the new EP, right? Because I really that's what
yes.
made me love you guys. Um, I listened to that and like there's something to like the punk that the pop punk that is being made now by people like you that are in their like late 20s early 30s
Mm-hmm.
compared to I think lots of the punk I listened to in like the I guess what people called the scene years uh,
Mm-hmm.
whereas like that song is like a it's over but I don't wish ill on you,
Yeah.
which is
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a mature take for this style of music. Whereas I feel like in the early 2000s there was a lot of uh, girls suck and here are all the reasons why.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Asking Alexandria had a like "You're a stupid fucking whore" T-shirt at some point.
That sounds about
You
right.
know,
And there's a song by Bring Me the Horizon from their deathcore phase that is still the reason I will not listen to them because I think it's like I've read about girls like you on the back of toilet doors. Like even in my
yeah,
like angriest most emo-y phase, I was like, dude, pull it back.
yeah, that wasn't us at all. I mean, I got into pop punk late, but the bands that I was always into, and when I say I got into pop punk late is I didn't recognize what certain bands. I didn't recognize that pop punk existed, right? I thought Blink-182 was just a rock band,
Hmm.
basically, and then
Yeah.
when I met my fellow pop punk friends in high school, that's when I started being introduced to the fact that Fall Out Boy is pop punk and 4 Years Strong, which is my second favorite band of all time.
Hmm. Yeah, they're
Um, and
so
yeah, and
good.
A Day to Remember and things like that. And I always gravitated like my first ever punk rock pop punk show that made me realize I wanted to play. Like that's like this genre of music was the Glamour Kills tour in 2009, 2010. It was with All Time Low, We the Kings, Every Avenue, Friday Night Boys.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and I used to be like I used to just want to be like Escape the Fate because I want to play like heavy music. Not they were heavy, but like that type of the heavy A Day to Remember, the heavy Escape the
Yeah.
Fate, Kill Switch Engage,
Exactly. The
and
more like down to yeah.
yeah, and the girl I was dating at the time loved Remembering Sunday, so she wanted to go see them like live. And I remember kind of going in a judgmental, like this is gonna suck because it's so like lame.
Hmm.
But like
Right.
All Time Low drop, like their backdrop came down and had every foul language word like on it that you can think of, like the most grotesque words for body parts. And I'm looking around like their fan base are like young girls, and I'm around a lot of moms right now, and for them to have like the guts to have that as their backdrop, knowing who their fan base is, and then they came out with Austin Stereo and just ripped faces off,
Yeah.
and I was like, that's what I want to do. And then I started to like really understand what pop punk was.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that's so funny to me to hear you tell me that that was the show because it makes me feel really old because I remember like the what got me into pop punk was well of course initially hearing was hearing Enema of the State back then and then the self-titled Newfound Glory. And All Time Low, like because I went to college in Towson and was like around and saw them like before they got famous, right up until they got very famous. So I always hold a special place in my heart for them.
oh yeah.
They're so good. I think and tell me what you think about this. I have a theory about why that works because I have a feeling that all of those the young girls that were into All Time Low when they really popped, it would not be totally outside the realm of possibility that maybe an older sister or an older brother or some kind of family figure was into Blink, and Blink used to have a giant flaming fuck sign start the show.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they brought that back with the All Time Low Day to Remember tour they did a couple years ago. If you were there, they
I
brought the
was there.
yeah. So you saw that they brought it back,
Yeah.
and like my wife and I were dying because that was the first time we both got to see Blink, and we're like, "This is incredible." um, I just wish Tom was there. Nah, he was cool, but
Yeah. I
I
love
would,
both versions, but I know what you mean.
yeah. But I agree honestly, and plus I think a band like All Time Low see like there's so many bands I feel who played it safe. You know what I mean? But
Mhm.
like not in the sense of played it safe. Like they said the right things. They were the right, they were nice. They were genuine. Like what we tried to do, right? Like we're not gonna sit there and write an edgy song that has some really edgy things involved just because we think that'll sell. Because that's not who we are. That's disingenuine, right?
Yeah.
But Alex, Jack, and Ryan and Zach, I'm talking like I know them personally. I do not, but they are those goofballs. Like you see it in like the way they interact online, the way they interact live, how they interact with their crowd. So I feel like they give people like, oh man, I wish I had that courage. So like your confidence is just radiating to me.
Yeah.
Um, Plus, I think they also made it safe for a lot of things. Like they made it safe to talk about. I remember that tour that I was talking like the Glamour Kills tour.
Mhm.
They were like one of the first bands I saw who were coming out, like because they had like the protesters outside, like no gay love and things like that, and like they were one of the first bands that I saw who spoke out against that. So there's like
Mhm.
this confidence and this courage and this making certain things like okay to talk about, right? Like, hey, this song's about drinking. This song's called Stella, and it's about drinking beer and having fun with your friends. Um, or this song's about having sex in a car. That stuff like for me, Mr. Catholic schoolboy,
Uh-huh.
who was you know, taught chastity all the way through high school, it made like this confidence and this like courage that, it radiated and made it okay to talk about like, oh, I can talk about sex. I'm not gonna burn in flames,
Yeah.
you know. So I mean, I really look up to bands like that because, like I said, I mean, I'm already saying for like the fifth time, but just that radiant energy of confidence and courage and intelligence too with social issues. Like they don't speak on things that just are that's not doesn't come from like information. They're not just like reading a Twitter post and then running with it. Like they're educating themselves. They're putting it out there. And
Mhm.
bands like them, Blink does it. I feel Newfound Glory's been really good with it. Just like those bands that really set the precedent for what you should be doing.
Oh yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And then to hear, to be able to have that kind of positive influence on your fan base, just to hear somebody say it is kind of empowering. I think that gives and that helps it give power to the idea. Like I think about that. I talked about that a lot with Justin Chris from Anti Flag. Like you got the great songs, and then you can have the important information that you can give people.
yeah, exactly. Um, so yeah, so I really think that's like, because they like, and you said too, like because of the older sibling, and for me, like I didn't get into pop punk until I was 18, so I would have been that older sibling to my younger, which I was that older sibling to my younger brother.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so me being 18, like, here's this song about having sex in someone's car, and he's like 15 years old, being like, okay, this is cool. My mom's pissed, but she got over it.
Sure, exactly. So you're raised like very like really strict Catholic?
No, actually, well, so my neighborhood was just a poor school district. So my parents were like middle class, upper middle class, so they could afford the private school,
Mm-hmm.
um, which we did because down that public high school I went to was like 5,000 kids, riddled with crime. No, it just was low income. So like
Yeah.
going to the Catholic school gave me the better chance of getting into like a better college. So
Mm-hmm.
um, but again, being in a Catholic school, they taught a lot of these like strict Catholic policies. Like I was in health class and we weren't even taught safe sex.
Oh man.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that came from like my public school friends. They're like, "Yo, we got these things called condoms." I'm like, what the hell is a condom? As a junior in high school, you know what I mean?
Right.
Um, but my parents are very liberal.
Mm-hmm.
Very accepting of like everybody. So we were taught that at a young age, and we actually were very my family, me and my brother were uh, brought into the world of like acceptance because like my aunt is gay and has had two
Mm-hmm.
wives at this point, married, and we had my other aunt, my mom's sister. She married a African American male, so we have cousins who are mixed races. So understanding like
Mm-hmm.
they would come hang out with us and like understanding why the neighbors would like stare at them, you know, being like darker skinned. So we were
Mm-hmm.
raised in a
Yeah.
very this is what you need to know about X, Y, and Z, and this is why you need to not be an asshole and accept it and be okay and stuff. So I definitely have my parents to thank for that, which I think helps with that helped with music in the end because the music scene is so is so inclusive. Like you're not just going to go to a show and it's only white people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
or just straight cisgender males or females. So
Mm-hmm.
um, that definitely helped too, especially when we're writing our lyrics and um, we're introducing ourselves to people. Just having that knowledge too, so we're not this closed mind. Plus, my mom really valued traveling a lot, so we traveled to a lot of different places in different countries, so we got to experience different cultures.
Mm-hmm.
And she was really big with we're gonna go to Aruba, which is like a super upper middle class vacation, but we're gonna go into the city of Aruba, in Aruba, and we're
That's
gonna
the
talk.
key.
Yeah, and we're gonna talk to locals, and we're gonna see how they live, and we're gonna talk and hang out with the staff at the resort and really understand their story. Um, and so that's like, and actually my specialty in grad school for psychology was counseling psychology with this focus on social justice advocacy.
Mm-hmm.
So really learning how to counsel and understand um, different sexualities, races, the discrimination that comes from that, being able to empathize with that, even though I don't have those experiences. So,
Yeah.
very fortunate for my upbringing because a lot of my friends are not, my old friends, I should say, at this point, are not that way.
Mm-hmm.
They were raised very, very close minded. So,
I can relate to that. I'm from a really I'm from a rural part of Maryland that just had that just there's a lot I could get I could get into, but I basically I am the way I am out of a reaction of not wanting to have a lot of the thoughts of the people that I grew up around and not wanting to be the way. But that's great that your mom encouraged that. Your mom, it's listening to that. Your mom basically did what I think Anthony Bourdain ended up doing for a lot of people with his shows, just to
mhm.
kind of have those, to just kind of like be able to have different experiences and actually see things that are different from the way that you were that you were raised. Uh, goes goes such a long way to like building the concept of empathy in a person.
Oh yeah, and like I mean, we grew up watching him and like this, Crocodile Hunter, who obviously talked all about culture
Mm-hmm.
in his show. But my mom also taught me to not be afraid to ask a question to someone. Like if you don't understand a culture or why someone says something the way they do or they believe in, don't be afraid to say, "I'm confused. Can you explain it to me?" And she's like, we had over Thanksgiving. Me and my wife, we housed the bands Let Down and Fortune Cove from Canada because they were doing a winter run.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they did it over American Thanksgiving, so they had 2 days off because no one did anything. No one does
Right.
anything in America.
Yeah.
So my mom actually invited them over to have a traditional American Thanksgiving because they've never had one before.
Uh huh.
Um, and what's it like in Canada? How's it different growing up as a teen in Canada than the US? Oh, this is what we experienced. Do you guys experience the same thing? So just very, don't be afraid to ask a question if you're curious because it's not insulting. You're trying to actually understand who somebody is and their culture so you can be more respectful of that.
Yeah.
Um,
Important information to have early on, and to you as well, listener. So
oh,
you
yeah.
and so you were 18 when you saw All Time Low, and you're like, I'm gonna play. I'm gonna play. And was guitar what you gravitated to first?
Yeah, so actually, I was playing guitar for a couple of years prior to that
Mm-hmm.
because the first band so my cousin introduced me to guitar. But I gave it up quickly because like the teacher I had was just teaching me classic rock, and I'm not a huge classic rock fan other than bands like CCR. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're good. They're good. Yeah,
They,
I know exactly what you mean.
yeah, like I don't really care. Like I hate hair metal. I hate Metallica. You know what I mean? So it's just like I'm trying to learn. They're trying to teach me free falling and Sweet Home Alabama. I'm like I'm bored. Like this doesn't relate. So the first band that really made me want to pick up guitar again, and still my number one band of all time is the Red Hot Chili Peppers. A friend of mine introduced me
Yeah.
to them.
Yeah, they're a great guitar
So,
band, especially when John's in.
oh yeah, well exactly. And they're the band that kind of taught me how to write a song and have the music speak for itself and the lyrics are like an add on because they write all the music first and then Anthony Kiedis comes in and sings.
Yeah.
Um, So I was doing that, and just throughout high school, just trying to find my way. I was playing the Chili Peppers, but then I had friends who wanted to play metal, and I had friends who wanted to play post-hardcore, and then I had friends who just wanted to do cover songs and cover like Nirvana and Neil Young and things like that. And then
Mm-hmm.
so when I saw All Time Low at 18, that's when I realized like, because I already knew Blink songs, I was like learning them. I just again didn't know they were pop punk; that was just rock
Yeah.
music. But then when I saw how much fun that genre can be live, thank you, All Time Low.
Yep.
That's when I was like, all right, I'm on a mission to be in a pop punk band. And from then it hasn't stopped. I haven't wanted to change, as my main form of music since. I mean, different bands have like influenced me more now. Like I don't listen to We the Kings, Check Yes Julia, and get the same inspiration that I do when I listen to like Hello Exile from the Menzingers, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's still all relative in the same scene, like that punk, that pop punk, you know. music
Yeah.
scene.
Well, I think at the core of some of those bands that you mentioned, and I'll branch this out as well because I love the Menzingers, and what resonates for me with them is I've always viewed them as a combination of like punk and that sort of like Bruce Springsteen esque Heartland kind of rock, and at the core of that all of that music is, and it's something I've heard said about country music well as well. It's like 3 to 4 chords and the truth. So you get like you get the foundation of those 4 chords, and then you kind of build upon that.
Yep, exactly. And country music's actually one of the biggest influences for Goalkeeper too, believe it or not.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just that super catchy big hook, simple song, but just that big, like you said, truthful hook, you know.
Exactly. The thing that's going to get everybody like shouting along
Yep.
at the show 100%. I wanted to ask you, and in terms of songwriting, I've been doing a lot more in over the past 5 months as far as like trying to educate myself on like guitar and songwriting and arrangements and stuff. I wanted to ask you, how do you go about approaching leads for Goalkeeper songs? Because that's something that, like, the really catchy, riffy, notey, like, and pop punk leads and octave runs are still a mystery to me after all this time I've been playing guitar.
So when I was picking up guitar in high school, and I was trying to actually write music, I realized that I could figure out the song. Like I knew like, oh, these are the chords to use, but I had no idea why. So I'm more of an analytical brain, which is why I'm not the main songwriter in the band. Ryan and
Mm-hmm.
Cody are because they're the creatives. Um, but I want to know why those chords work together and why to go to this note and stuff. So I took theory lessons for about 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the teacher I had, incredible dude, he would teach me a scale. Like, let's say he would teach me, like, oh, here's the first position of the D major scale. So we'd practice it. And he's like, all right, well, I'm going to play like this simple D major, like chord progression. And then I want you to play a lead on top of it, just whatever you feel. And he would do different rhythms and different tempos and things like that. So I could learn how to do something that was slow and melodic or kind of fast and riffy. And then what he taught me, which was really the most helpful thing, is I still do this to this day. If I'm watching TV or just listening to music, I have my guitar on my lap and I will try to pick out the key to the song. So if you just send me like a new neck deep song, I'll just diddle around different notes until I figure out like, oh, it's the key of like D sharp major or something. And
Mm-hmm.
then he taught me like just write leads on top of it as though you were tracking. Just whatever you feel. Like what's the song teaching you? Try new things, try different stuff like that. Um, that's literally how I approach it. We get the foundation of the song down, and then as we're jamming out at band practice, because we don't write on a computer, we are
Mm-hmm.
still very much like, hey, I wrote this riff, I'm going to bring it to band practice, and we're going to work it out as a group. Um, and we just play it, and then as we kind of get it down, we're able to play through the verse and the chorus. Then I just go off on my tangents and just randomly pick a starting spot and just whatever I kind of feel. You know, uh, I'll show you the EP when we get done. But the one song we have, "Just Say It," we have a little guitar lead in the post choruses, and that was strictly just off of feel. Just
Totally.
we went to the post chorus and just whatever you're feeling, dude, just rip it, and that's what it was. So, very improvisational. Is that the right word?
I think so. That makes sense to me, and because you have the enough of a grounding theory to know why your fingers can kind of go a certain way, it makes feel and improvisation, I guess, a little bit more intuitive.
Yep, exactly. So I kind of yeah, and I it helps just knowing where to go, and then working with Kevin for producing the last two records, he's really taught me how to, get out of the comfort zone of like if you're playing a D chord for because your song starts on D major, playing the D octave chord, right?
Yeah,
He'll teach me like, well, you can start at E, or you can start at A or G, and this is how it can sound different and sound kind of cool and poke out more. So um, through my improvisation, like through improvising my leads and then working with Kevin, that's even helped more. So now I can kind of just go. And sometimes
Uh-huh.
too, like if I really like a certain lead by a band, like Dakota from Between You and Me,
Oh yeah, that's a great song.
um, yeah, or Best of Me by Starting Line. Sometimes what I'll
Oh, did I lose you there for a second?
practice. Oh, once, can you still hear me?
Oh yeah, I you dropped out for a second, but you're back now.
Okay, cool. I think my AirPods are dying. One second.
Oh, okay, no problem.
Let's switch out. Yeah. So between like working with Kevin and stuff, and it's and I was saying like picking out a song, like, oh, I really like this type of lead, so let me just try to do it myself, like in a different way. Like I'm gonna try to do the same type of thing, and that kind of just teaches me different ideas. So then when I'm going to our own songs, I'm not ripping somebody off, but I have different ideas from what I've learned. Um,
Right. It's kind of like
Sleep on
licks.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And like Sleep On really taught me that because they have a lot of those like high three string, like clean reverby leads.
Mm-hmm.
So when I learned those, I'm like, oh, that just opened up my entire mind because I never knew you could like incorporate that this way. Um, so then I'll like use those positions and like then I just kind of like diddle around and think, oh, well, that note sounds cool right there. And the next thing you know, I'm writing like an original goalkeeper, like clean lead, you know.
Uh-huh.
Um, So yeah, but the core of it is just knowing the theory and then being just practicing improving, on the whim.
Yeah. That makes total sense. I'm gonna start doing more of that because hearing you say that, like, I used to like, oh, how that sounds cool. How do I figure out how to do that? That's how I ended up playing guitar. I heard what's my age again, and I was like, oh, how do you make those sounds, that dunna 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 and that ba
Hmm.
da da, and then getting that album and hearing like the big like open E chord of Dumpweed. I'm like, oh, I want more of that.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
um,
exactly.
yeah, and just and while I'm on the guitar nerd riff, I'm curious what kind of g- gear you're using because I feel like at a certain point, Marshalls and Mesa Boogie dual rectifiers started falling out of favor in pop punk and getting replaced with like Voxes and Oranges and a more like classic rock is not the right way to say it, but but I think a more like vintage sounding overdrive compared to like the super high gain stuff.
Yeah. Yep. So that's actually funny you said that because for a couple months I was using a triple rec like between 2019 into 2020 and I sold it because I just didn't like the tone for goalkeepers, like too heavy.
Uh huh.
Um, but my go-to guitar amp is the Orange TH30. Um, so I'm super stripped back. I don't like gear. I don't like knobs. I got the TH30 because it has three knobs on each side. Like
Mm-hmm.
everyone's like, you can get a better tone and define tone through a rock verb. I was like, too many knobs. That's literally my excuse. Too many knobs.
Yep. I feel the same way about
um,
Strats. I don't too many
yeah.
knobs.
Yeah, well, I mean, I had a Strat for a while, and I took out the second volume knob or tone knob, so it was just two. Um, But yeah, so my live rig right now is an orange TH30 with the 412 orange cab. I love orange just because of the distortion and the clean back and forth. We use Marshalls in studio, so we will use like on Life in Slow Motion. We did the JCM 800, I
Mm-hmm.
believe it was 800. Um, and live, I have a 1977 Les Paul Artisan that I just got while we were in Nashville recording. Kevin sold it to me after the studio
Oh,
because he
that's
wanted
nice
to
of him.
get rid of it and I
Mm-hmm.
wanted a vintage guitar.
Uh huh.
Um, and then I used to be really big into Fenders like Tele Deluxes and Strats, but then what I found was I can do a lot of the palm muting and the alternate picking, and it just felt better on Les Pauls. So I've got the
Mm-hmm.
77, like I said. I just picked up another like a studio tribute, which is a really good backup because it's also weight relief. So the 77 is like 14 pounds, and the tribute is like 5. So my back can get a break sometimes.
Oh yeah,
Um,
definitely. Especially if you're
and then
playing live and touring.
oh yeah. Um, and then my pedal board is just a tuner, a reverb pedal because I need it for some clean tones, especially for the new record.
Hmm.
A TS, like a what's the Ibanez tube screamer, but I use that
Yeah.
solely as a to dirty up my clean channel. So some songs like Chances and a few others, I don't need full distortion, but I can't go full clean. So I just activate that to kind of give me like just to crunch up the clean tone a little bit. Um, and that goes right into a drop tune. We use that because live some songs are a little bit too high range for Ryan to sing like every day on tour. So
Hmm.
we drop a couple songs from drop C sharp to drop C just to give him, so he's more consistent. It's just easier on his voice. Um,
Oh, the Digicheck drop
yeah,
pedal.
it's great. Yeah, it's super. And we don't have enough room in our van or like enough money to buy like four guitars to have like two drop C sharps and two drop C guitars. So we just have like our two guitars in drop C sharp, and then if we need to go drop C, we just activate the pedal. Um, so that's super convenient. And then to the noise suppressor. Very cut back, no delay pedal, no crazy three button shit.
Yeah,
you know,
I know exactly what you mean. Like whenever I see, I look at like jazz bass players, and they have these like beautiful basses, but there's like six knobs on it. I'm like, too many knobs, too many knobs. My holy
yeah,
grail, and of used guitars, and I will get one of these, find one of these one day, is to track down a Tom DeLonge Fender from back in the
yeah.
day. You know,
Yep, the with the Invader pickup in there.
yeah, yeah, one volume knob.
What color? What color do you want?
If I was gonna go, if I had a choice, I would go Daphne Blue, but I would take whatever
Ah,
I could find.
nice, nice. I want the yellow one if I could.
Ah, yes.
Um,
If I found one of the yellow ones, I would do it, but that's because I have there's like an inside thing with joke with my fiance, which I'll tell now because it's funny. She when we were renovating our apartment, she brought like paint swatches when we were going to meet for dinner, and I said I didn't see yellow in that particular room, and so for like the past like 3 years, I have been tortured with yellow by her and her entire family. So if I could ever find the yellow Tom DeLonge, I would lean into it hard.
there you go. Yeah. My the artisan was like my like I didn't actually really realize until Kevin showed me the guitar, and I was like, oh, now I see how cool this is. Um, I think my holy grail would be it's a tie between like a 79 Les Paul Custom and like a 19. I think it's a 59 or 51, whatever. I forget. It's the original Les Paul Junior double cutaway in the TV yellow.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah, that
yeah,
would.
like I think Social D uses them and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I love vintage guitars. I do. I mean, I'm not a collector by any means. I only have three guitars because I'll sell something to get something else.
Sure.
Um, but I've started to realize that, when a guitar really ages, it plays better. I just feel like it plays better, especially back in like, 80s and 70s. Just something about just feels right when you're playing. It just necks are faster and um, you just feel like you're actually playing something and not knocking a lot of the new guitars. It's just some of the new guitars you can feel the factory on them. Just like you're one of 10,000.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I could see it, and then also like, you know, as you spend some time with an instrument, it becomes part of your musical journey, and then you impart your own characteristics onto it as well. I get very romantic with stuff like with stuff like that.
Oh yeah. Well, that's how
Um,
Ryan is with his SG. That's literally been on every single record we've done, and he's done before, so he'll never get rid of that thing. He won't even let me play it live.
hmm. Oh,
So that's his like. I bought this for $600 and it ended up being one of the best guitars I've ever invested in. So,
that's how I
um,
feel about my Mark Hoppus precision bass. Like, I will. My band was gonna my band we were gonna have our the current the pandemic canceled our debut shows, but I cannot play that thing live because I don't even think they make it anymore. So I'm gonna find like a Squire or something to beat up on live when we eventually
there
do
you
get to
go.
play shows again. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, I love vintage Gibsons. To me are just chef's kiss.
No, they are. They're definitely the price you can't tell your partner about.
Yeah, I
Like I showed my wife, I was like, I got this 77 guitar. And she's like, that's cool. How much was it? I'm like, I got this 77 guitar.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
she just walked away, and I'm like, phew. Um,
Exactly. So you and then how long have goalkeeper? When did goalkeeper form?
so our first band practice under the goalkeeper was July of 2016.
2016.
So
And so I feel
yeah,
like you. So I from what I've been able to discern, it sounds like you are. I feel like I'm lucky to catch you on the up because I feel like you will
mhm.
be very very big in a few more years. I'm curious. So and you guys are from Philadelphia.
Philadelphia, South Jersey. We say Philadelphia is like our main hometown,
Mm-hmm.
because that's like where our biggest draw really is. But I'm the only one who actually lives in the Philadelphia area. Cody lives in South Jersey, about an hour from Philly, like 45 minutes from Philly.
Mm-hmm.
And Ryan actually lives down the Jersey Shore, right next to Cape May. So he's about an hour and a half from
Ah,
Philly.
okay.
Um, but again, like Philadelphia is still our hometown because it's our biggest drawing city. Like we don't really draw as well in South Jersey as we do in Philly. So.
Sure. And I was curious, like when you guys started doing gigs, I know you said your first DP was really helpful as far as getting your name out there. I was curious. I'm curious about when did you start seeing the momentum build for goalkeeper?
We saw the momentum in the local scene when we first released Leftovers, for sure. Um, so we did that. That was like one of the first songs we wrote, and then we made a conscious decision that we weren't going to just put out an EP. We were just going to do one song at a time. So let's record a song, do a video, release it, go back, record another song, do a video, release it, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so Leftovers was really when we started to see that momentum in the local scene. We released it and you just saw the YouTube comments and the Facebook posts, like, who the hell is this band? Where did they come from? Who's this band made of? Like, let's go on, hey, getting random, like, hey, let's go on tour together. We're from Philly too.
Uh huh.
Our second or third show, we played at this like Philly bar, and people were there for us and like screaming the lyrics to Leftovers. What's one kid already knew it on guitar and could play it.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome, man. I might have. Oh, there. So.
One second, one second.
Oh, no problem.
Do. Okay, can you still hear me?
Yep. Yes, I can.
All right, so it's gonna be a little bit poor quality because my AirPods just died because they don't last very long.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it's totally cool. You still sound great to me. It's just podcasting in quarantine. You make certain concessions with sound. So
yeah,
so
I have
so no worries, man.
I have to use these all day because I'm doing telehealth, obviously. So
Right.
we don't do Zoom just for confidentiality reasons. So, but anyway, but yeah, so we started seeing the momentum there, and then I would say the momentum outside of us, of like the city,
Mm-hmm.
would be after we released Bad Times Don't Last, because that's when we were starting to get like we released Nothing at All as our first single, and that was featured on all press, like the top 10 things that got released you need to hear about, and like we were number one. um
That's awesome, man.
oh my god, it was incredible. Kevin hooked that up for us, and that was absolutely incredible. And it was the first time any we actually it got released on my wedding day, and I remember the first 3 hours of my wedding day I was more focused on that than I was my wedding. But I've got literally the greatest wife in the world, so supportive. She was like, I get it, this is massive, and plus you need to get famous so you can buy me my ranch in Montana. um, so, um but
Solutions action oriented. I think you guys are gonna make it.
yeah, right there. um but then so then when we released Sunshine, because what ended up really happening, which we got lucky for, is when we released Nothing at All in Sunshine, that was when Spotify was really opening up their curator playlist to local bands. So you could do the whole artist submission thing and
Yeah.
get added to Pop Punk's Not Dead and new punk tracks with the scene. And I mean, Sunshine's still on Pop Punk's Not Dead to this day. Um, and so that just opened us up to so many people like around the world. That's when we started to see us selling merchandise to Australia and the UK, and we were rolling into like Long Island, and there were 30 kids there for us,
Mm-hmm.
and playing Rochester or going out to Ohio. And I remember we played Ohio, and these girls drove 9.5 hours from North Carolina just to see us play for half an hour, buy some merch, and then went home. They're still friends of ours with us today, because you don't just that doesn't just happen. You don't become friends with them.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a friendship. That's what that is. That's amazing.
This one girl from St. Louis, Missouri, like flew out to Brooklyn to see us in Brooklyn one night. So it was like that's when we started to actually like see the outside. Um, and now with this, so far with Happy, we're seeing that kind of amplified, which we're really excited about, because we have a lot we need to work on. Like we still need to get out there and tour a lot more, because one of the things that I'm really proud of with the band is everything that we've done, we've taken incremental steps that have worked for us.
Mm-hmm.
So even when we released like the first couple songs, our only ambition was to just become like, we just want to be a household Philly pop punk party band that plays every local show, and draws people out. And we just get drunk and have fun.
Yeah.
Um, so I was in grad school. Cody was an undergrad. Ryan had a job with like, he needed to do PTO and a salary and stuff. So we were in no position to tour or take time off like that.
Right.
But then as like the band kind of grew and life changes, like now we were starting to make like decisions with our careers about like with the band. So Ryan, he does social media marketing. When he got his new job, he made sure he could work from the road so we can actually go on tour. And my
Yeah.
job, even though I'm a therapist, I'm fee for service. So my job's already said, if you need to take off 2 months to go on tour, like go for it. We'll be here when you get back. Um, and Cody has the same thing with his job, because his boss used to be a touring musician, so he gets it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you know, as the years went on, we always kind of have like this every 3 to 6, like 3 to 4 months, we have this like come to Jesus talk of like, okay, where are we at? Are we still happy? What do we want to change? What do we need to improve on? What are our short term goals for the next 3 to 4 months? What are our long term goals for like the next year or two?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so we were touring kind of later in the career compared to some of our colleagues and the other like bands around us.
Yeah.
But we're doing it on our own time. So now we like, so like, well, 2018, we were amazed we played 30 shows. We were just amazed we went on two like weekenders and a week long tour. That was a massive accomplishment for us.
Yeah.
Now, this year before COVID, we had over 100 shows scheduled, and we are going to hit the Midwest like 3 times. We're going to hit Texas, and now 2021, we're planning out the tour routes. We're anticipating to play around 150 to 175 shows.
Awesome.
Um, and it's all because we grew with the band and like really made sure like, okay, like Mark can do this with his job, Ryan can do this with his job. So we might be 4 years into it, but we grew it to the point now where it's like, hey, we can go play these random cities and draw kids, and our jobs and personal lives are okay at home, so we don't have to go home to drama. you
Y-
know
Oh yeah.
or
No. Totally.
or if we take a loss on a tour, which is very common for a band like us when you go out there, because you're still building your name and not a lot of people know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
um, you don't go home stressing that you're like, I have no money, how am I going to pay my rent? We're all good with that. So yeah, that was a way longer tangent, but yeah. So Bad Times Don't Last was first time outside of Philly, and then this record just kind of amplifying that. um,
That
so
this is really exciting, man. And that I enjoyed that tangent because this is a lot of what I think about now. Because when I was in like my early 20s and I could think like this. I was very much romanticized the like starving artist, no plan B kind of way of thinking, which is not realistic, especially for the way the music business is turning. But y- that's what I think the healthy template for how your band is, that you've got a job that you've got a job that you're passionate about, that's flexible, and then that's the way that you can uh, apply yourself creatively as well, I think.
well, exactly. And like I said, like, and like I was saying with the you know
these goals. Every time we set a new goal, we got to work on accomplishing that. So, oh, that is my wife. Sorry, wifey poo. Um, but we got to accomplish those goals, and then as we accomplished them, what made it easier is we were.
You can answer that if you want. I can edit this.
Hey Heidi, I'm actually doing an interview with my buddy Will. I'll call you back in a second.
Did you make food?
Not yet. I will.
I'm very hungry.
All right, I gotta go. That's the conversations. Did you make food?
Oh no, same. I'm going out to after I finish this interview. I'm going out to our local Chinese place to get dinner. So don't even sweat it.
Yeah.
So I'll so we're talking about like setting goals and then working towards that goal.
Right. So we and every time we would like accomplish a different goal, we got to maintain that goal. So if we said, okay, we want to hire someone to do a music video, we were ready to start putting that budget into our videos so we can do it consistently every time.
Yeah.
Or we're going to start doing weekenders. It meant that we had the transportation situation figured out. We had the connections, we had the songs, we had the playability. Like we were ready to take that next step and then maintain that step. I feel like a lot of bands just kind of rush into things and, for lack of a better term, they kind of like put, I'm not going to say it's inappropriate, but they put all of their resources into like the first thing they do, but then they can never match that going forward. It's like, we spent $5,000 on an EP, $5,000 on music videos. We bought a $10,000 van. Oh shit, we are broke. And
right.
We cannot spend another $5,000 on a music video. We cannot spend another $5,000 on a record. So now everything after that is now less quality than when people first found you. So it also looks like you guys are it makes it look like the band's downgrading.
Right.
So, hence the name Goalkeeper. We very much like to set these goals that are realistic and that do put us out of our comfort zone, because like you have to get out of that comfort zone to grow, but not so much that we can't maintain it and then build from that. So just as an example, like our first record, we spent $300 a song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then our last record was, we'll just say, a decent amount into the 5 figures. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But we were able to do that with no problem, because of the growth that we've made and been able to maintain.
That's awesome. And and I agree with you. That's you want to show growth, like you want to go up a staircase. You don't want to like get up the staircase and then fall and then appear like you're falling back down. Like there are a few bands where like the first album sounds really good, but then there's a dramatic change with the follow-ups or the rush to follow up. You are probably one of the few musicians that approaches their music career like an adult. I know that sounds like a weird thing to say, but I mean it in the most complimentary way possible, Mark.
No, I know what you mean, because like you're right. When you're 18, like when I was 18 years old, dude, I didn't know any of this shit. You know what I mean? This came from like growing and talking to people and making connections and not being, thank you, mom, again, not being afraid to ask questions to people, and reaching out just to the most like, hey man, like this seems silly and I don't mean to bother you, but how the hell do I write an EPK? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I could easily Google it, but I'd rather talk to someone who did it, and and you kind of have to, because like I said, like we're getting older and we didn't have the life, and some bands do. Like I'm jealous of the bands who can come out swinging and literally just tour 8 months out of the year, have them like be able to create awesome music videos, go to great studios, and you just go, 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 go. But my therapist brain,
Mm-hmm.
that's not the reality of our situation. So we can't create this fantasy land for ourselves to the point where it becomes detrimental and then we're fighting and breaking up. We have to really look at our situation and make the best of it and see how we can like take it and grow. So that's why 4 years later, now we're getting ready to, we're working with who we worked with. We're getting ready to do over 150 shows a year, and not looking to slow down anytime soon. And that's not a brag. And that's like things I tell bands all the time. It's like, oh, what would you tell us to do? I'm like, sit down and figure out your goals collectively. Your goal might be to get signed to a record label, but your drummer's goal isn't. And that's going to have a lot of conflict when you're trying to do everything you can to get signed and they don't give a shit.
Yeah, exactly. And not unlike like personal like romantic relationships, like band relationships, like a having the same like goal is important. Otherwise, like you said with the therapist, man, you're gonna have some conflict. So it's good to know that early on. Well,
Plus
dude,
everyone,
oh,
plus everyone feels respected. Like when you come up to them and you say like, "Where are you at right now, bud? Like, what's going on in your life?" You know, um, and me, Cody, and Ryan get to speak openly if we're like struggling with something. And then how do we fix that problem together versus like, well, sorry you're struggling, man, but get your shit together, because then it just makes you feel like your band's not on your side, but if me, Ryan, or Cody are struggling with anything at any given point, we talk about it, we figure out how to fix it, and so that way, everyone feels respected and they want to keep going, so the band should always be fun. I mean, I know people preach that all the time, but it's really easy for it not to become fun when you have to focus on all the business side of things, and I think a lot of that comes down to how you communicate with each other, so if you're insulting each other or telling a person that they're a piece of shit because they're not picking up their end of the bargain, like that's going to create animosity between members. But if you go to your bandmate and say, hey dude, you seem to be struggling a little bit, what's going on? How can I help? That creates love and compassion, and then it creates this sense of motivation to be like, I want to do this because my bandmates are on my side, and let's figure this out together. And that's kind of been like our motto, like as a band, is like, we're friends first, bandmates second. And that's how it was when we started too.
and that's, I think, the healthy way to approach it for sure. Because like if you're building, because that's how I think you build a healthy and vibrant scene in a music scene, and it is helpful that the bands share the same approach. I would think as well. Dude, I'm inspired by I'm inspired by not only how great how much I enjoy your music, but by your clarity of vision and the way you approach things, man.
Dude, I appreciate that a lot. I love getting to talk about this stuff because not a lot of people do.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, to have a humble brag, I'm proud of what we've been able to do together, as like me, Ryan, and Cody. I've been in bands that have just been so toxic, with everything, and just everyone being on a different page and never making any growth and basically dying before you even get out the gate.
Yeah.
So the fact that and I'm super neurotic, as you can probably tell just from how much I talk and the tangents I go on. So the fact that Cody and Ryan let me be who I am,
Right.
and Ryan's like, he's a creative. So i.e. he says he's going to get something done 1 week and it's 3 weeks later when it's done, but,
Yeah.
But, give each other, giving ourselves that room to be who we are and not judging. It's just like, it makes you feel really good. You look back in 4 years and be like, man, we've accomplished a lot. Like, there's still a lot more we want to accomplish and a lot more we have to work on and improve on to get where we want to be. But I mean, like I said, a humble brag. Like, I'm super stoked of what we've been able to do and how our relationship together has grown. I think that comes out in the music, like you said about the high energy friends. Like, that's the friends first, bandmates second. You're really just seeing three best friends interact with each other, just have a commonality of writing music together.
Yeah, and it absolutely comes through, and you should be proud of what you've accomplished. And I look forward to what happens after this, Mark. So when does the new EP come out?
So the new EP comes out September 25th. And it's coming out on Lost Music Collective, which is Vinny from Less Than Jake, his new label.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we actually have another single coming out at the end of this month that we're going to announce Friday, that the teaser for.
Awesome. Well, keep me updated. I'll probably have this out in a couple of weeks, so keep me updated on things that I can help get the word out about. And thank you for this conversation, man. Where can people find Goalkeeper if they want to check you out?
So we're literally everywhere, as you can imagine. But you just act. Literally, our music video chat's going on right now. It's just at Goalkeeper Band. So if you do that for Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you'll find us. Spotify, Apple Music. We're dealing with the Apple Music issue right now. Apparently, the distribution company we went through did the whole mistake where they create like a second profile by accident. So if you are looking for Happy on Apple Music, just capitalize the K for right now in Goalkeeper. But we're working to get that fixed, just in case it's not fixed by the time this interview comes out. But yeah, find us everywhere. And, if you like what you hear, don't be afraid to reach out. We make it a priority to answer every message that we can and have conversation. So, if people want to just say hi or what's up or chat, like, by all means. And whenever we can start doing shows again, follow us on all those platforms so you can get the show flyers and come have a beer with us. We love buying beers for people, and we love partying with people after the show. So, yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, when shows happen again, I will take you up on that. Get some.
You're in Maryland, right? You said.
Well, I'm from Maryland, but I live in New York City.
Oh, Brooklyn's like a hotspot for us now, so we'll definitely catch up. And we usually play Gold Sounds in our Kingsland. So.
Oh yeah, I know Gold Sounds very well.
Sweet, yeah, and we also play Long Island a lot. I know it's a little far from the city, but Brooklyn, we got our buddy Kevin up there who runs Gold Sounds in Kingsland, so he always throws some awesome shows for us. So that's like one of the top 5 places we'll be hitting as soon as we can do shows again.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much for talking to me, Mark. This was a great conversation.
Dude, thank you. Thank you for letting me ramble. That's one of the things I have to learn how to cut down because I go on all these tangents. So I appreciate you just letting me do that. It makes me feel good.
Oh, don't worry about it, man. A good interview for me is one where I don't have to talk too much. So
that's a good therapy session for me when I have to talk too much.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much, man. I'll look forward to talking to you again soon, Mark.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you so much.